Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Isabelle Tierney, the founder and CEO of The Stress Reset, a company delivering corporate workshops, executive coaching, and certification programs to transform workplace stress into resilience. With over 20 years as a licensed therapist and 2 master's degrees, she developed the Feel Good Life methodology, a 3-step process born from her own burnout recovery, now adapted for businesses facing stress challenges. With that being said, Isabelle, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really, really glad to be here. Lately, I've become more of a nerd about looking at business and how to grow. I've been a visionary for a long time. I'm a content creator, and I've really understood in the last couple of years that I also need to be a skilled businesswoman to actually scale this work. So it's right up my alley, this interview.
Beautiful. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. Isabelle, I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into it. What I love to do with every single one of my guests is a bit of traveling back in time. So before you even had this company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the business?
Yeah, so the context setup is lots of trauma, childhood growing up, becoming a perfectionist high achiever, right? It's why I have all these degrees. And so I then became a licensed therapist to help people with all the trauma that I had, healed, and build my practice really, really fast that within a year, I was seeing 8 clients a day, 5 days a week, the most trauma-oriented clients and leaders that were stressed out. And guess what? I burnt out. And I lost my marriage and I lost my health because of my burnout. And so I was like, wait, there's got to be a different way to live where we can accomplish what it is we want to accomplish in the world without burning out, which is what I was seeing everywhere around me. And so I created this methodology for businesses called the Stress Reset method, which helps people recognize when they're in the stress response and why they become who they become, and then to shift out of it in minutes so that they can become the best versions of themselves. And my relationship is back. We've been back together for 6 years, even though we divorced, and my health is better than ever. And my vitality and aliveness because of this work that I created for myself first and then have brought to others.
Yeah, this is interesting though, how you turn this all around. But also the fact that you're coming from the place of like personal struggles, it just makes you a hell of a coach and consultant, right? So I always say this, obviously, I'm not happy about anything negative that happened to you, but this just provides you with a different level of understanding that you have towards your clientele. So that's amazing to hear. Obviously, Isabelle, I'm sure there was a lot of adjusting along the way, just to get some clarity in terms of how you're going to operate, how not to burn out again, who you're going to serve, how you're going to do it. There is a lot of questions though, right? So we're going to uncover all of this step by step. Now, my goal going into this part of the episode is really bring some clarity for our listeners in terms of who is it exactly that you're trying to help out right now, but also what are the core offerings that you have in place?
Mhm. Great. So I've realized, when you first begin, just when I first began my therapy practice, I was going to help everybody. I began the same thing when I decided to go into corporations, because what I realized was that this work that was so successful individually, they started telling me, why don't you bring it to organizations? And then I started seeing it work with every niche. I'm not talking whether it's first responder, whether it's tech, whether it's global beauty brands. I've worked with, and so it's been really hard for me to actually say, well, who do I really want to work with? And who actually is most ready to work with? And what I've discovered, especially with the last year, it's mission driven or people centric, or even more precise, faith-based organizations, because these are organizations that know they have high values, they have beautiful missions, and in the sake of growing and expanding, right, and making more profit, they have lost the human part, the values part, the mission part of their organizations. And so when they get to meet me, they realize that it's possible to have both the profit and the humanity. And that really is what I'm seeing most right now is how difficult it is to be able to have people and profit, right, all together at the same time. And so that's who I want to work with. Remind me what part B was. Oh, what do I offer? So my main offering is a keynote. And then a new product that is just the most exciting of all is called a culture consult. And so whether I do the keynote first or not, I have an incredible assessment. It's called a stress resilient assessment that helps measure an organization, their employees' health, mindset, emotions, relationships, purpose, fulfillment. And then I analyze that. And then I do a presentation, usually to VPs. I just did that with this big healthcare organization that lets them know, well, how is your organization doing? And for example, the one I just finished, it was a mission-based healthcare organization. They have this huge transformation they want to do over the next 2 years, and their people are already burnt out. So it's like they want to run a marathon for the next 2 years, and their people are like sitting on the couch exhausted. So they need to do something so that they can fulfill their mission, right? And the profit and the transformation, but have their people be able to actually do the work and the transformation they wanted it.
Yeah. And have that healthy balance between the profit and the people-centric approach.
Exactly. Yeah. And the cool thing about my work, right? My work is about nervous system regulation. A company doesn't actually have to change the externals. A lot of companies get scared when we talk about resilience and well-being, that now they're going to have to give 2 weeks vacations and massages and yoga. What I teach organizations and people is how to self-regulate even when external circumstances don't change. Right. So this organization, they have a stupendous amount of work to do. They have a huge push the next 2 years. I'm saying to them, I'm not going to change that, but I am going to change the way your people are regulated through that so that they can become the most optimal version of themselves to actually actualize the work, this big work that they want to do in the world.
Yeah. What is really interesting to me, though, earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that this is something that can change within minutes for some people, but there's also a lot of people who, if you look at the work that you do, this is really about shifting the perspective and the mindset that those individuals work with, which is not an easy thing to do. So I'm also curious, when you retrospectively look back at all the companies, organizations, and people that you work with, what would you say is the average duration of you really working with the client, walking them through the entire journey, and setting them up for success?
Wait, I want to understand the question better. What is the exact question?
Sure. Looking at the client journey, when you
Yeah.
retrospectively look back at those companies that you work with, what would you say is the average duration of you working with a client
Okay.
to really achieve the outcome that you're looking
Okay,
for?
got it. So my also they do keynote, consult, and then 7 week programs. And the 7 week so keynote people go, oh my God, who I become in the stress response is not my fault because I explained the neuroscience of stress. Oh my gosh, there's a way for me to show up at the best version of myself in minutes. So that's keynote, right? They get like the potential. And then the 7 week program, I do 4 and 8 hour trainings for first responders who don't have time for 7 week programs for organization. That's the ideal. I see changes within week 2. I was actually looking at transcripts of different organizations. The work works with first you have awareness and then you take action. So awareness, where am I at on my stress scale? So even just recognizing, it's called metacognition. Everybody's talking about metacognition right now. That's the first part of my work. And then taking action, which are my 3 steps to shift you out of the stress response, is the second part. So weeks. The only thing that has been one of the bigger issues for any organization and for me is after 7 weeks, people change on this 1 to 10 scale at least 2, 3 points, how they're feeling overall in their lives. The issue is how do they sustain it? Right. And so one of the things I'm developing is an ambassadorship program where I can train people in organizations to keep the work going. Or I've been also doing this other thing, which is I come back once a month. And then if any new people come in, they get trained in the work. And so, I'm trying to find ways, just like any workout, right? You can work for 7 week workout and feel great, but if you don't maintain it, you're just going to go back to what I call your homeostatic level and who you were before. So that's the answer.
This is a pretty exciting idea, though. So basically, having those ambassadors, it could potentially be a manager of a team as long as they can learn and work with your methodologies, they can continue providing this.
That is correct. That is correct.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank
That's a
you.
genius idea.
I have big visions. When I first started working, and I think this is one of the questions you might ask. When I first started working, so I shifted from B to C, right? I did 7 years of working with consumers. That was the feel good life. I've certified 50 people in my work. I served thousands of people, right? Once I developed these programs. And then I was told both intuitively and from other people, start working with organizations. That's where you're going to have the greatest impact is organizations. Imagine organizations that are regulated. And I saw this vision 5 years ago of what my work is called Red Zone or Green Zone. It helps people get the Green Zone. So the Green Zone business certification. And I saw a planet having organizations that were certified in the work. That means they had gone through the process. They knew how to regulate. They knew how to collaborate, how to resolve conflict, how to be engaged. And they were certified in the work. And so if you wanted to work for that organization and you looked at two other competing companies, you'd be like, oh, they have the certification. I know they're going to take care of me. And that's my greatest dream. And for the first time, this feels like it's starting to happen with what I've done the last 5 years to build, to scale, to get systems in place. It's like the vision is here, and that's really exciting because that touches my deep spiritual soul, which is really to help end suffering in the world, right? That's my greatest mission, and I have found an amazing tool that does that. So I've never shared that in public with anybody. So I just want you to know you opened something in me.
Yeah, I absolutely I'm loving the enthusiasm and the passion that you have for this field. That's very refreshing to see. And also, Isabel, I'm gonna need you to stop reading my mind, because obviously you just answered my next question that I didn't even get to ask. So you're doing my job for me.
You
No.
know, I can do this all alone. You don't even need to be there.
Yeah, let me just log off real quick.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding, but th this is definitely something that I wanted to discuss. And the main reason for it, though, is that when you look at your industry, which is, by the way, getting really, really big, at least in the past few years, there is a lot of people who are solely focusing on the world of B2C. Others are combining and dabbling in both world B2C, B2B. And obviously, you pivoted after years of working with B2Z to now working with organizations. Um, this begs the question, though, because if you look at it from the perspective of a business owner and through the lenses of processes, we all know that when it comes to like sales process and really making those deals happen, when it comes to the world of B2B, it just takes a longer time. It's just much more complex. So I'm curious, what really was the pivotal moment for you where you decided that it is actually worth it and I'm going to
Mm.
pursue it with the B2B?
A great question. So in 2020 is when I decided to check out how would this work in B2B. So I created a whole program just for organizations. So I created a whole new course and I did a pilot with 3 organizations. And it was literally, I was going to travel to New York to give it, to run it. And COVID hit that month. It was April 2020. And so I taught it on Zoom. And 95% stress reduction reported in 7 weeks by these employees. And it was actually almost more powerful than one-on-one. I don't know if I've ever taken the time to actually really ask myself why. I think because, one-on-one, when I put together a group, it's Susie Q from Nebraska and it's like John Doe. Like this, I think because it's an organization that's already a group, what
Mhm.
happens with this work is we start developing a language. Oh, are you in the red zone? Are you in the green zone? So that's one of the big powers of this method. It gives a common language and takes blame away from stress. And so that's what I think one of the powers is it actually worked even better than in B2C. And yeah, I think that I answered the question, right? Like what was the pivot? What's been interesting is that those first couple of years, literally I would talk to a leader, CEO, and they would just say yes. what I have found in the last couple of years, because of economics and uncertainty and this and that, it's actually harder to get the very quick yes. So I was really lucky. I thought it was going to be like that the whole time. I literally would talk to a leader, they'd be like, okay, come on in at the price point I wanted. And I am seeing that there's a difference this year, but that has made me then have to develop more systems and processes to be able to be with this, more realistic, kind of economy.
100%. Now, talking about those systems and processes, let's take a look at what's happening on the back end side of the business. Especially now that you have pivoted towards B2B. Obviously, those are completely different processes, whether that's, presenting yourself, marketing yourself, how the calls go, everything is different. So I guess my first question is, what is really happening on the front of your marketing and maybe specifically lead generation to make all of this even possible and have the ability to still onboard new clients and keep changing lives?
Yeah, you just made me really realize what a big pivot that's been on every level. Like, right? Like, I used to be on Facebook. That was my big platform. First of all, Facebook kicked me out 6 months ago because somebody hacked me. So I'm not even on, and so I've gone on LinkedIn. So even that, and then the thought leadership on LinkedIn versus the last thought leadership on Facebook was completely different. So yeah, over the last year, I have a new business partner has just kicked my, you know what, to actually develop systems. So marketing is primarily LinkedIn and then relationship building. So I'll go to conferences. Keynotes are a big one for me. That's usually the way that I enter really fast. People see the work, feel the work, and then they want to do the work. Um, I just got accepted, which is a really big deal, to Vistage, which is the largest CEO peer coaching organization. And I've become both a teacher there. So basics on Friday, I'm going to present to CEOs for 3 hours. And then I also have become part of their executive summit circuit. So I'm going to travel all over the country to be able to speak to these summits where there's 150 to 200 CEOs. So that's like great marketing. So I've done these ways through relationship, which is what works best for me, to get in front of people who then have the capacity to give me. I have referral partners too, which I really love, is when people love the work, I do a really generous compensation model, so that they'll share about me because they immediately see the value of the work. So please ask me more questions if there's more to this answer that you want to have me answer.
Absolutely. I mean, I have about 15 questions ready for you, but obviously, I also have to be a little bit selective about what we're going to talk about. One thing is something that I'm going to circle back, but since you talked about the combination of strategic partnerships, having those referrals, and those systems in place, but also leveraging on the potential of social media, which at this point is mainly LinkedIn. I'm curious, how big of a deal is it really going to be with you in social media? Do you feel like the focus should be really on those strategic partnerships, or do you feel like you need to create more content on LinkedIn, or what is your overall strategy when it comes to social media?
It's really, it's literally the question I'm asking myself. As you can imagine, meeting me, I love relationships. I'm less felt in the written word and I am more felt in experience, through this. And so far, and it's pretty much always been like that. So far, relationships are way stronger than LinkedIn. Um, I've really struggled, coming from B2C to B2B. I'm a very spiritual person, but I do not bring that into my work. It's informed into everything I do, but my social media was spiritual and deep, and my sharing revelations about some new consciousness I had understood. LinkedIn, I've had to be a lot more buttoned up, and I'm trying to find the balance. Like, where is it buttoned up because I have to be good for corporate versus where do I lose who I am? So it's been really this last year of building LinkedIn. I don't think I've gotten the balance of that yet, and I'm kind of itching to find that balance.
Yeah, this is what I love, by the way, about all of these business stories. We could be having this conversation in 15 years from now, after you running the business for 20, 25 plus years, and you would still be in a position where you can just say, "Hey, Milan, there's still something that I stumbled upon. I just need to figure this out." You're never going to be in a situation where you have complete confidence that everything is working to the extent where it should be or could be. It's just interesting as it
Well,
works.
when you tell a perfectionist that, it takes time to really get that. It takes falling a lot and realizing that you're okay, even if you fall or you fail,
Oh
to
yeah.
accept that truth.
Very true. Very true. Isabel, obviously, like I said before, there is a lot of passion that I see, a lot of devotion towards the industry, the work that you do, which I would assume is highly reflected in the goals that you have set for yourself and the company. So if we talk about the future, maybe specifically the next 6 to 12 months, what would you say really are the biggest targets, goals, revenue, milestones that you want to hit?
Yeah. Um, so becoming focused on mission-driven organizations, and then literally I created this consult, this culture consult a couple of months ago because of this ginormous organization asking me for it. What my plan is for the next 6 to 12 months is to do more keynotes, culture consult, and then these 7-week programs. So what I'm waiting to find out is whether I can train 135 people, leaders in this organization with my 7-week program. So that would be 5 7-week programs to begin with in that organization. And that's what I want. I'm excited, I'll say it differently. I'm excited to work with mission-driven organizations to bring my 7-week programs on large scale so that the whole organization, often beginning with leadership, can change from the inside out. And yeah, that's literally my 12 months plan. My goal right now, because right now I have two other facilitators that I trust to be able to do the work as well as I do. And so right now, getting to a 500,000 this year, so without growing too fast, too much, really making sure the systems are in place is my target. And maybe it'll do more. Hopefully, it won't do less because I feel like I'm ready. The last year has gotten me ready to be exactly here.
Absolutely. In terms of hitting those goals, let's also talk about what could potentially stand in the way. When you think about reaching all of this, out of everything that could possibly happen, what would you personally expect to really become the biggest challenge to make it happen?
My ADD, the fact that when I say I'm a visionary, it sounds so foofy. By that I mean like I see patterns. I just see, I know how to create content that transforms, right? And so the problem is I'm always seeing things, right? I always have new ideas. And so this business partner of mine, I say it's like herding cats working with me because I'm the visionary, she's the integrator. And so that's my biggest issue is not being like, but wait, I have so many other methodologies that are life-changing that are just sitting on my computer. So that would be the biggest one. And then in terms of organizations, is organizations not getting that resilience is not just like this mindset issue or stress is just like a wellness issue, but that if you can train your people to become resilient, everything organization want, the bottom line, people who are engaged can be solved through my work, right? And so it's like the education gap. Because nobody really talks. I was at this big conference and they were saying, we talk about resilience, but we don't even know what that means. And the chief human resources of BP said, I wish somebody created a product that would help you recognize when you're in the stress response and shift out of it. And I was in the audience. I'm like, that's what I've done. Because we need resilient people to go through the changes like AI, like economic uncertainty. Organizations are going through so much change. If the people aren't regulated, organizations are going to fall apart. So educating them on that is another one of my not obstacles, but something I'm facing.
Yeah, what an exciting journey, though. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of issues that you're going to have to tackle with, but for some reason, there's literally no doubt in me that you're going to be able to go past it and keep growing and impacting lives.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
And I also got to say, I love the energy that you brought to me today and the entire podcast here. So I really appreciate that. Isabel, at this point, let me also say thank you for taking the time today, sharing this lovely story with me and the audience. If anybody from our listeners would like to connect with you, get in touch, and one day, who knows, perhaps even work with you, how should they go about it?
Yeah, LinkedIn is one of them, Isabelle Tierney, and I think you probably have that. And then you can reach out to me at Isabelle at stressresetsolutions.com, or my website is Stress Reset Solutions, right? And it's easy to remember. I help reset stress and I provide solutions to help reset stress. So that's, yeah, I would love to if you, and even if you're an individual, I work with one-on-one leadership coaching as well, and you want to learn to self-regulate so that you can then impact the people around you, whether it's at home or at work. Yeah, and that's the final thing I'll say. This work works just as powerfully at home than it does as work. People learn the work at home, at work, and then bring it home and change their whole family system. So that was a piece I didn't get to share here yet.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna have to do a part two in the
I
future.
think so too.
I
There's
mean,
so
obviously
much
there is
more
a
I
lot
want to
that we
talk
could
about.
yeah,
I love it.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, Isabel, I hope you were comfortable. Again, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing it. Talk to you
Yeah,
soon.
love it. Now to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a coach, consultant, or you have an agency, and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from zero to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.